Hey everyone, welcome back with Being on Mac, where today we're going to continue our playthrough of Nickelodeon Kart Racers. We got the Cynthia Cup here, and if you don't know, from Rugrats, that's Angelica's doll. Yeah, there's not really any sense to any of these cups from the sound of it. Like, I don't think there's, like, I think it all ends with, like, this franchises or the series or whatever, like a race track from that series. But other than that, like, you know, for example, there's no Cynthia track at the end. I think it's just a Rugrats track. But yeah, the doll for Angelica, the slightly older kid from Rugrats that everybody hates. So anyway, so we got that going on here. Of course, you know, you got, you know, me, your boy, you know, Mac, as they say. I'm playing as SpongeBob, representing. Of course, you know, this isn't a one-player adventure here. As you can see, we're doing two-player here with, you know, my boy, Sulu64.
I'm walking here. You got a problem with that skateboard, boy?
Yeah, I do have a problem with that, honestly. But that said, why don't we just, once again, you know, let's just fire right in, you know. Let's just get right straight into the action here with the, you know, the question of the day. So, what was the best cartoon channel? You know, sound off in the comments below what you think was the best cartoon channel growing up. A lot of options here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you got Nickelodeon, you've got Cartoon Network, you've got arguably for more, you know, younger children, but I put PBS in that regard. They had a lot of animated shows like Arthur and that kind of stuff.
That's true, that's true. I mean, there was Disney XD, I believe, was like the dedicated animation channel. There was Nickelodeon, like you said. There was Nickelodeon 2. That's always a classic. That Nicktoons.
If Nickelodeon is so good, where's Nickelodeon 2?
Oh, I mean, you're wrong on that one. There is a I know that, yeah, I think there is still a Nickelodeon 2. Which I don't really understand. Like, Nicktoons makes sense because, like, later in the day, I remember back in the day, they had their live action stuff, and I'm assuming that's still what goes on regular Nickelodeon, is like morning cartoons, afternoon, they're, you know, quote unquote adult audience, you know, the teenagers, and then, you know, that I'm assuming they still have Nick at Night, but I think that's just essentially the Friends channel at this point.
Yeah, they literally just exclusively air Friends reruns at this point after the SpongeBob rerun.
That's actually pretty crazy. I remember Nick at Night used to have a lot. I don't think they were ever original shows, but they had some pretty great ones. You know, I see a lot of people like the, what was it, like the Taxi or something? Taxi Man, was it called? I can't remember. I mean, they had the Nanny, though. You know, George Lopez, that's one of my favorite sitcoms of all time. So they had that. I think that 70s show for the longest time was like a pretty popular one that was on that. I think it may have been on Teen Nick or something. I can't remember. But they also had Home Improvement. Like, it seemed like they had like a solid schedule of built-up things there. Everybody Hates Chris. That was a great show that was on there a while. And now it's just Friends, which, hey, I mean, it's a popular show, but I don't know. I just can't get into it. I couldn't watch it every night.
Yeah, speaking of Teen Nick, it's a shame they got rid of Nick Rewind during the late night hours, where they aired all the old shows, kind of like what Cartoon Network's doing now.
Huh, so I didn't know that they ever had that. When was this?
It was, I believe, sometime, I remember it was definitely around such like the mid-2010s, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I can think of is that it didn't do the ratings that they were hoping for. That's the only thing I can think of. Was it like a late night thing?
Yeah, I think it was after like 9 p.m. The only time I remember even being acquainted with Nick Rewind is like, I remember waking up at my grandma's house at like 10 o'clock at night, and the TV was just randomly set to Nick, and I guess Nick Rewind was on.
It's crazy, because that used to be set specifically for George Lopez that time.
George Lopez?
Yeah, George Lopez, you know, the sitcom. Everybody always jokes that, you know, they woke up in the middle of the night with their TV on watching Nickelodeon. It was always just George Lopez. It was always on. And, you know, it's usually just like the video of like the opening of him just making the weird faces in the intro, jumping up and down on the trampoline.
Yeah, it's that cult-like hold he just has on people.
Well, I don't think he was ever really a big deal after the fact of that show. Like, still a stand-up comedian. He's gotten a few shows here and there, but like that was his main relevance, was that sitcom.
We're kind of getting distracted from the topic at hand here.
I suppose, you know, getting antsy, I see, eh? So, that said, though, if you're so worried about the question of the day, what is your favorite cartoon channel?
I would probably have to say Cartoon Network is held up more, especially as boosted. Like, are we including Adult Swim and Cartoon Network since they're like on the same channel, or how are we considering that?
I mean, I guess you could. I mean, why not? I mean, they are on the same channel.
Yeah, at this point with that whole checkered past thing, they basically almost combine the two together at this point.
I don't know about that. Adult Swim also... It's funny because, like, Nick at Night had, like, the distinction of having, like, the best sitcoms back in the day, like, at night, but then Cartoon Network with Adult Swim had, like, some of the best, like, adult animations, you know? Like, it never had The Simpsons, but always had, like, Family Guy, American Dad, you know, eventually it got Rick and Morty. And then it had some pretty, I don't know, okay shows, I suppose. I'm not the biggest fan of all of them, but like Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I know the Venture Bros was a pretty popular one. Metalocalypse was popular. Now all of them really had to, like, I don't know why Adult Swim seemed like they had to tell them to get out of here. They just couldn't afford their budget or something anymore. And I know Venture Bros, I think, got like a movie or a final episode to wrap things up, but Metalocalypse just kind of got canceled and that was it.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Adult Swim doesn't exactly have much anymore, especially after Smiling Friends ended and they finished up the new season of Primal. I don't even know what their catalog is anymore in terms of original content.
Yeah, I don't know either. I am a fan of Haha You Clowns and Primal. I think those are pretty good shows, but yeah, I don't know. Obviously, Haha You Clowns just came out. It was actually just like a small, weird kind of internet series that Adult Swim picked up. I think it was the same with like Smiling Friends, where it just got popular and they're like, hey, let's pick it up for a show. I know Smiling Friends was really popular, like pretty well beloved, so it's crazy to think the creators just said, hey, we're done. But oh, it also used to have King of the Hill. I think it does now. Obviously now has Bob's Burgers, so yeah, lots of that's kind of like the animated adult animation shows that has everything except for The Simpsons
And South Park.
That's true, can't deny that one. You think South Park would be the perfect network too, but hey, I mean, Comedy Central seems to have treated South Park well. Although, I mean, is South Park and Comedy Central, is that even really a thing anymore? Or is it just because of like how streaming works now, it's just kind of like South Park's its own thing now?
I've never even tuned into Comedy Central, so honestly I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I guess not, if you're able to watch it without going to Comedy Central. Comedy Central is a very interesting channel too, but that said, before we stray too far away from my opinion on, you know, the best cartoon channel, I'd probably have to go with Cartoon Network again as well. And it's a really tough choice because, you know, once again, I think Nickelodeon's had some of the best, you know, series that I've loved. You know, SpongeBob and Avatar: The Last Airbender are up there. Jimmy Neutron is probably some of the best. But also, I feel like the quality of the stuff, like, just consistently would have to go for, like, Cartoon Network. And I feel like, yes, it is Cartoon Network, you know, other than that very brief period in like the 2010s, they never kind of lost that identity of being a cartoon thing, whereas Nickelodeon, I feel like it started out for cartoons, then as it got later on and more popular with like Drake and Josh and stuff like that, then iCarly came out, then Victorious came out, and then those are also all very good shows in my opinion, the Dan Schneider stuff. But then every other one that wasn't that, and including a lot of other Dan Schneider shows after that, just weren't really good, like, at all. And like, I think that because they weren't focusing on that kind of stuff. Okay, who is the jerk that put that bubble right where the treasure chest is? Anyway, so yeah, because I don't know, I feel like they should have tried to focus on more cartoons, and I feel like every time Nickelodeon would put out a cartoon in like the 2000s, they never really gave it a chance. You know, I liked Chalk Zone. I thought that was a pretty cool series, but then they never really gave it the time slots to kind of really try and capitalize on it and give it a chance, in my opinion. You know, obviously there's a lot of people who are upset that a lot of those old shows aren't really getting any kind of notoriety, you know, when they were kids. You know, there's not much of a Life as a Teenage Robot where you can watch that. There's not so much Wild Thornberry stuff, you know. It seems like they kind of forget their old franchises, which is a shame, because, you know, those cartoons are what most people associate Nickelodeon with, you know. But what are you gonna do, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that do just be how it is.
Yeah, I suppose. Alright, so I believe this is the 4th race, right?
Yes.
Alright, so yeah, this is the last one. Like I said, you know, obviously this isn't a Cynthia one, but like, this is a really cool looking track in my opinion. I feel like they put the most effort in the last tracks on these, but as you can tell, like, it's a Rugrats Cup, so it's just the last one is in, the last track is related to the theme of the cup, and that's about it. Which I think it should have been like, okay, so you have the 4 franchises, so you have 4 cups, and in each of them you have 4 tracks themed after, you know, the cup that represents, you know, Rugrats, SpongeBob, all this and that. And then, you know, maybe have like 2 cups worth of just generic tracks or something like that if you wanted to. And then you have like the Grand Prix where, you know, you have the 8, 8, and 8 or whatever. But it didn't seem like they did that in this game, and I know that for a fact they did not do that in the second one. So I don't know, it's just interesting thinking how they work with this stuff, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, back on the topic of stuff that was left to die, it is kind of refreshing to see Jenny make all these appearances in these spin-off games recently. So, you know, at least there she's kind of getting a chance in the modern day. Still kind of sucks that the show is basically only watchable in modern times on Paramount Plus now.
Yeah, I think that's just the case with a lot of those shows, though, you know? I mean, you gotta get streaming, unfortunately, and it's not always convenient, you know? I think I've already had to talk about this in my previous playthrough in, like, Fairly Odd Parents, you know? The inconveniences of streaming and how it started off. At one point, you know, like, you had Netflix, it put Blockbuster out of business and stuff like that, you know? And then because of the convenience factor and the cheapness of the subscription, and most of them are still pretty cheap in my opinion, you know, like Hulu, right? Like, I think it cost me $10 a month. Paramount Plus is probably like $15 or something like that, so they're still pretty cheap for the most part, especially when you consider how much cable costs these days. But at the same time, you have to pay, you know, if you want to watch Nickelodeon shows, you have to have Paramount. If you want to watch you know, adult animation stuff, you're gonna have to go with Hulu or something like that, you know what I mean? And you know, licenses to things change all the time. So like, I used to have Peacock and I watched George Lopez show with my WWE programming. Now that's not the case, because obviously now George Lopez is on Hulu now, I guess. And on top of that, the WWE is now on Netflix, I think. And it's on like 3 different streaming services, because I think one of them's like pay-per-view, the modern pay-per-views to come out. One of them is like Raw, that has like the old stuff on it, and I think in some countries Peacock still has the old stuff, so I don't know, it's all really confusing. So it's not really something for the consumers these days, and it just stinks that nowadays that it's all streaming and digital, that we don't really have the option for the most part of just going to, like, you know, Family Video was the popular one in my area, and you know, or a Blockbuster, just to kind of watch the movies that we want to watch. You know what I mean? So we had the convenience and we kind of lost it, you know. But I don't know, it is what it is. But that said, it looks like we're just about done here, folks. And unfortunately, looks like it's about a tie here. But unfortunately, for some reason, the game considers Super Lou 64 the winner. Is what it is, I guess. You know, you got anything to say, Super Lou?
Let's go to the taco shack.
Yeah, well, that said, folks, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out next week's episode on License Thursday, but above all else, though, please remember to have a nice day.
Who's the super cool cop? It always gets the bad guy. Donut boy, that's me, yeah. He brings a delicious assortment of sweet delights. Donut boy, got a creamy filling.
No, this is the scene where you get lost!